If the Cleveland Cavaliers end up staying put at pick number 49 for the upcoming 2023 NBA draft, there are a few names in particular that may be available that I think they should have their eye on, but someone who has really intrigued me as of late is none other than Emoni Bates, the polarizing wing out of Eastern Michigan with a substantial amount of potential who offers a lot of offensive versatility even at the young age of just 19 years old. When analyzing Bates' game, there is admittedly a lot to like. He is an effective scorer when pulling up, is displaying a supreme level of confidence in his shot both inside the arc and out.
145, overtime, Bates, another one.
Ball screen action.
Here's Emoni Bates' first shot, and he knocks it down.
Michigan having no idea who they're guarding.
Emoni Bates for three. Welcome back.
He is quite effective when operating out of the pick and roll, knowing just how to use his screener to free himself up for an uncontested pull-up jumper. This ability could very well translate at the NBA level as he appears adept at using the pick and roll as a conduit for his jumpers. The Cavs don't have many wings on the roster capable of doing this at the moment. Hell, even his contested jumpers look makeable due to his form.
Through a lot in terms of being a superstar in a social media age and shots from within the offense. Now this is a heat check right here.
And also hear from the chairman of the committee, Boo Corrigan, NC State Athletic Director. There's Emoni Bates.
He takes and makes some of the most difficult shots there are out there. This is something that's very reminiscent of former Cavalier J.R. Smith. He is unabashed in his ability to shoot over you. Now we all know that this can be both a gift and a curse, but I will say that his ability to create for himself in ISO sets is something that can't necessarily be taught. You either have it or you don't, and Bates appears to have that ability and then some. He has a legit step back dribble in his arsenal, and while the release can be low, he gets it off quickly enough for it to be a real weapon, especially when it's coming from his left hand side.
All the way across.
The short shot clock here.
Bates stepping back. He launches
What is
a
that?
three.
I mean, the guy in his face.
To be honest with you, the best part of this is the fact that the guy barely requires space to get it off. I mean, he's just a tough shot maker. What more can I say? Another weapon in his bag that ties to this idea of tough shot making is his apparent knowledge of angles, as he has really solid touch off the glass when driving right. One of the more important aspects of his game in relation to the Cavs is his range. As mentioned before, Bates is very confident in his ability to shoot the basketball. So much so, in fact, that if he's on a heater, he will pull up while in transition without hesitation. This is something that was rarely seen out of Cleveland's wing this past season. I mean, this dude will pull up from deep range without a second thought. He is someone defenses will likely always have to defend outside the three-point line with the ball in his hands, because if they don't, he can torch them with back-breaking step-back dribbles. Bates isn't just a pull-up artist either. He can also be utilized as a legitimate catch and shoot option as well, whether it be off of a DHO while running out in transition, off ball, or while simply waiting for the ball to find him off a timely pass.
Trying to shoot. It's Jeter. Back to Bates. Open three. That might be the dagger.
Comes into Bates. Bates stops and pops for a left wing three. Wow.
Acuff over to Bates. Long three from the ocean.
Now, Bates is far from a perfect prospect. There is a reason why he's consistently mocked so low. We have heard about the maturity issues both on and off the court. And while those have undoubtedly played a role in his draft stock falling, there are also legitimate basketball reasons why Bates could go so low in the draft. Let's start with his lack of separation. Look, when you watch him play, it's pretty easy to see that he's compensating for a general lack of burst with his jump shooting. Now, while this has worked at the collegiate level, NBA coaching staffs will likely do their best to exploit this by making him fight through contact, especially at or near the rim. He has a slow first step and doesn't finish at the rim nearly as good as you might think a man his size would. He is so reliant on his jump shot because he lacks the explosiveness needed to create separation from perimeter defenders. And when he does make it past his defender, he can get picked apart inside because of his footwork and lack of bounce, which results in a ton of his layup attempts being rejected. Overall, he's not what one would truly consider a great vertical athlete. Also, for a team that is known for its defense like the Cavaliers, Bates' abilities on that end might be a cause for concern. He is rigid, off balance frequently, and half engaged at times on this end. These are not necessarily deal breakers, as a large part of defense is effort, which can be fixed, but they are not something that can be shrugged off either. This is a real area of improvement for Bates. This can perhaps best be visualized when watching him attempt to close out on a player on the perimeter. Note how poorly positioned he is. He also lacks the quickness needed to be an effective on-ball defender. Opposing players will look to attack in this regard until he proves beyond a shadow of a doubt they can handle himself. Look how easily defenders can drive right past him. There is little to no resistance. And what's even more concerning is the lack of respect he has shown as a defender in the post, even by smaller players. He was attacked one-on-one frequently down in the post. He is upright far too often and doesn't yet have the frame or lower body strength to stand his ground at the moment. Emoni Bates doesn't offer much as a playmaker either. Now, I don't consider this to be a huge deal considering the wealth of playmakers on this Cavs team, but it is a little alarming. He finished the season averaging just 1.4 assists per game, paired with an assist percentage of just 9.2 while playing little under 34 minutes per game for Eastern Michigan. For a player who had the ball in his hands so often, you would think that he would have finished with a higher mark in these categories. He is guilty of the over-dribbling stereotype that can be common for players of his mold. This can often lead to turnovers because his first instinct appears to be dribbling through contact rather than moving the ball. Right now, if defenders opt to trap him, he struggles because he can't simply dribble through them. This could be a real problem against NBA level defenders who will look to pick his pocket clean. Also, don't look for him to be passing out of the pick and roll anytime soon, as he has showcased some of the most questionable decision making when operating as the initiator. And because of all of this, his fallback is his jump shot. If forced into a spot in which he needs to make a read, he may just opt for a tough shot instead. So with all of that in mind, it becomes easier to see why his draft stock is so low at the moment. He has flaws, but he still has high upside as a skilled offensive talent. If drafted by Cleveland, he wouldn't likely be asked to be a day one contributor, which would give him time to soak things in and season a bit before being called upon. You can't ask much more out of a low second round pick. And in my opinion, he will be worth investing the 49th pick on if still somehow on the board.